Speaking of Sons of Anarchy, though, Dan, do you know Shakespeare?
Watching The Simpsons and Always Sunny for the first time.
Hey, Nina's here. Say hi, Nina.
Oh, am I allowed to talk now?
So, Dan, we've talked many, many times on this podcast about how it's really fun to be pretentious, right?
I really thought you were going to end that sentence that we've talked many, many times on this podcast, and I would have really appreciated that, just so you know. Go on.
We have talked many times on this podcast. It is well known. It is documented even. 200 and, well, not 248 times before this, because you weren't on every episode. I wasn't on every episode. You know, things happen.
Close enough.
Things happen. But it's well documented that it's very funny, just in general, to be pretentious as a joke, right?
Correct. Being actual gatekeeping, not good. Gatekeeping as a bit, very funny.
Agreed.
And, Nina.
Also, Nina's
you have not
here.
been introduced yet. Could you please wait until I
Okay.
tell my funny story?
Yeah,
He's
all
going
right,
to do a bit, Nina.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm shutting up now.
And this bit, you weren't
God,
there
I can't
for
believe,
it,
I can't
okay?
believe no one's
So, like,
trying
it's
to
not my
silence
fault.
women on the podcast.
Me
Unbelievable.
silencing women aggressively, even. I'm just like, no, you know how it is.
Yes, correct.
Anyway, let's rewind to Gritmas, Dan. Do you remember Gritmas?
I was not sober at any point during that time.
Well, you know, that's fair. That's fair. I was, unfortunately, for gout reasons, pretty damn sober the whole time. But that's okay.
isn't-
What?
You were okay, go on. No, yes. I'll
Okay,
accept,
let me rephrase.
I'll accept this
Most
this
of the
premise.
time.
Okay,
yes,
yes,
let
most
me
of the
not do a
time.
revisionist history when I was so high I forgot that I played an entire Jackbox game and had it
Yes.
reintroduced to me very
Correct.
recently.
Correct. Yes, go on. Now you may
That
go on.
was fucking hilarious. No, this is the game you played. No, I didn't. Anyway, Cedric, friend of the podcast, and I were chatting because I had a tiny bottle of wine that I was drinking out of the bottle because I didn't want to bother to go get a glass.
You're just that kind of guy.
And it was very funny to me because earlier that day, he and I were talking about food. And I'm like, you know, what I never knew until recently was different wine glasses are for different kinds of wine.
Yes.
You're supposed to drink different wines in different glasses. And for the main reason, like, obviously we all know champagne is tall and skinny to keep the bubbles in and keep them from, like, evaporating too fast, you know? And other wines, though, it's like you got a big wine with a big bowl that you can swirl it around and really get, like, it up in your nose so you can smell it better. You know, stuff like that. And I believe your common wine glass that you usually see around places is a Chardonnay glass.
Okay.
We were joking about that then, because I'm like, you know, this is a guy who doesn't exist, and I think it would be really funny to do it as a bit, where if someone were to offer me wine in the wrong glass, then suddenly I get all, oh, well, that's not the right glass, is it?
How embarrassing for you.
Very funny, right?
A good bit, frankly.
Well, I forgot that I had only talked about that with him.
Oh no.
Enter other friend of the podcast, Zam, who acquired for me a wine glass as a kindness. Like, Noah,
You know,
stop
like a
drinking
good-
out
like
of
a
that
good
bottle.
guy.
Drink out of this glass. I'm like, oh, thank you. And about 20 minutes later, this man says, so Noah, how's the wine out of the wine glass? And me, not even thinking about the fact that this is not a man I made this joke with, said, well, I mean, it's not a Cabernet glass.
Really funny though.
And
Noah.
And Sam's just like, okay, asshole, it's still a wine glass. Isn't it better than
Noah,
nothing? And I'm like, oh, yeah, no,
no.
I'm sorry. Yes, it's good. Thank you.
It's a you funny. You don't understand. There's nothing funnier than accidentally being a huge asshole to your friends.
It was so funny because, like, I thought it was just a very good joke. 'Cause
Which
I'm
it
like,
was,
well,
to be clear.
it's not exactly a Cabernet glass, but it will do. But then instead, I just say to the man who got me the wine, well, I mean, yeah, it's the wrong kind of glass.
The man who got you it as a kindness, like completely unprompted kindness of his heart.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
it is pretty good, isn't it?
I really every now and again I mean, okay, many times, often even, I say some shit and I'm like, oh, that made me come off as a huge dick.
Oh my god, I did that at work recently, and it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not going to apologize because that'll make it even worse.
No, I think you should still.
But then it's
buddy,
like,
I can agree with you. I
well,
think you should
no-
still apologize.
No, it's like the specific way it happened. It's like I was okay. So I got a promotion recently. We know this. Wait, first, hey, Nina's here. Say hi, Nina.
Oh, am I allowed to talk now?
Okay, shut up then. If you're gonna be like that, that's fine. Anyway.
The exact same thing. You know what? Honestly, it's nice of Noah to give Nina permission to speak. Honestly,
Well, I revoke
very
it.
cool.
Honestly, it was very rude of Nina to just be like, you know what I mean?
No,
Anyway.
I don't. Actually, please explain.
I'm too busy telling a different story that's very
My
funny.
bad.
And you
Please,
need to
please,
you need to
please
hear that
continue.
instead.
I apologize.
Because it's funny at my expense.
Go off, King.
Because this is another story of Noah being a tremendous asshole, but this time it wasn't to a friend, it was to someone I don't know.
That is
I got a
pretty funny.
promotion recently. We've talked about that. This promotion 2 days last week took me to the fancy store in town, and I got to help out down there. They don't know who I am. They don't know what my working abilities are. They don't know me.
Your vibe.
Well, not only that, but they just don't know like what I'm capable of doing. Not in a they don't know what I'm capable of, but they actually don't know what I'm actually like aware of how to do, you know?
Yeah, but also in the they don't know what I'm capable of way. Like, to be clear, it is both.
Yes, of course. And I'm clocking out at the end of the day. They're showing me back to the office so that I can, count my drawer and leave. Normal stuff. And they get me to a screen before the screen I need to get to actually like close my register out.
Of course.
And the manager who has not worked with me at all yet that day, the brand new person who had just come in for the evening shift that I was like about to leave, she came up to me and she's like, "Oh, do you know where to go from this screen? I don't actually know how much you know how to do here." And I accidentally very like casually said, "Oh," instead of saying, "Oh yeah, no, I'm pretty familiar." I said was I gave my new job title, which is just such a stupid flex to do because it was just rude for no reason. I'm like, "Oh, I'm the new assistant manager that floats around." But I didn't say it that way because even that is like,
oh my god,
way less rude than
what did you say?
What did you say?
I don't want to give exact terms because I just don't want to narc myself too hard.
Continue
so I'm gonna
calling yourself an assistant manager. That's fine. Use that as your title in this metaphor.
I literally said, "I'm the new floating clerk 2 from Pine."
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that's rough.
You sound like a total asshole.
You sound like a tool. I don't even know what any of that means, and I still know you sound like a tool.
No, I know. Oh, it pissed me off, man. As soon as I said it, she's just like, "Oh, okay," and I'm like, "Oh,
yeah, and
I didn't need to say it that way."
Yeah, and I'm sure it's one of those things where like they just kind of moved on. But I mean,
yeah, 100%. They just moved on. But also, it's like I was still there for another hour and a half after that. And it was really awkward. And I'm like, I gotta try and prove it to this person that I'm not like a dickhead. So I'm gonna try and get stuff done while I'm here.
Yeah.
And then, Dan, I did it again by accident.
No.
Oh, it was, oh my God. And that wasn't my fault. This one was not my fault. She set it up, but I'm looking for like some cases of wine, right? And I wasn't sure what the wine was, so I looked it up on the website and I'm like, "Oh, tight, I found it." And she's like, "Oh, I know where that is. It's over here." And I don't know why she's taking me over there. I'm like, "Oh no, this guy wants a case. I'm just gonna grab it from the back." And she's like, "No, I'm gonna get you the item number so that you know where to find it in the back." And I'm like, "Oh no, it's on the website. I already got it." And she's like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I guess you're better at this than me."
Oh my god.
And I didn't do that. That wasn't my fault. That was not my fault.
That wasn't your fault.
How was it my fault?
No, you should. I think you should have just let her do it.
Yeah,
but
because I didn't know what she was doing. The guy was impatient. The people down there are not polite. They are very rude people. Not the employees, but the customers. Very rude people.
Those people.
So I was just like, "Oh no, don't worry. I already got it from the website," trying to lessen her workload because she was already helping me instead of doing what she needed to get done. And then have her go, "Oh, yeah, I guess you're just better at this than me, huh?"
Ouch.
I was just like, "Oh no,
oh, buddy,
not what I meant to do." And so that's my week.
Ouch, owie, owie.
Yeah, I was reminded of saying that one to Zam because it was very funny.
This
but
one was
then
less funny and more just ooh, ouch, ouch.
Yeah, this
owie.
one was a lot less funny. This was just like, "Oh no, oh no, oh ah."
Oof, ouch,
and then the follow-up made me feel even worse because I just tried to be like, "Oh no, I'm just used to this way." But I didn't know how to say it because it's It's just that literally the way I do it at the other store I'm at all the time. It's a lot easier for me to do than try to work within our system because our system is archaic and hasn't been updated since like 2001.
Correct.
And
as
I'm
are
like,
most systems, to be fair.
To be fair, yes. So I'm like, oh, I'm used to using the website. It's easy to find things and have a picture. So let's roll. Let's rock and roll. Let's go. And yeah, it was awkward, man.
No, have you considered learning how to speak to people and not in a dickish way?
I'm a good customer service person, Dan. I'm real good at
it's not your customer
service
that I think we have a problem with here. I think it's your employee
My interpersonal
service.
skills?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you... Okay. But hear me out, Dan. I was so out of my element at the end of an 8-hour day.
I like that you're about to be like, but have you ever worked retail with people? Have you ever had a long day?
Let me shift these goalposts a little bit more. I had the sniffles. Have you considered that?
Have you considered that, you shit?
No, I feel it.
I had a tummy ache. Did you think about that, Dan?
Did you think about how I'm feeling today? I was having I was all caught up in my feelings. You don't understand.
None of my normal friends ever have this issue with me. Just the ones that I never see. Maybe it's their fault.
I am... To get back to customer service.
Oh, yeah. Go
yeah,
off.
please, go off.
I get so torn between, specifically when it comes to coworkers, I get so torn between being extremely understanding and nice and trying to like enforce things because I'm anti-capitalist.
Of course. And
being pissed that my coworkers, like being a little bit elitist. So one thing that I get really mad about, I'm glad Jackson's not here, so he can't be a little bitch about it.
Oh yeah, Jackson's not here, by the way. I guess that's assumed because we didn't intro him. Usually.
So one thing that ticks me off is that a lot of my coworkers. So when I worked in Washington, we had state mandated breaks at 15-minute paid breaks when you are working 8 hours or more.
Yeah.
And I'm used to that. And then we had that at the as well when I worked there. We would have mandated like breaks at a certain amount. At where I currently work, that's not a thing, but my boss will always tell the new hires you're allowed to take a 10-minute break when you work a full day shift, basically.
Got it. Okay.
None of my coworkers when they start will take that break. I have had to, yes, and I always took that break. When I was in their position, I always took that break. I would take the whole time that I could. I would eat. I would watch TikToks. I would not come back just because I was done eating, because I believe that that's important. I believe that it's like no one's gonna die on the 10-minute break. And I told both of my coworkers this, and they were like, "Oh, well, I just don't want anyone to be annoyed." And I'm like, I cannot emphasize to you how little annoyance I feel when you're gone for 10 minutes. It doesn't matter to me. I would way rather you have a chance to sit down and not be standing in front of customers eating, like both for your mental health, the sake of the business's like appearance, everything. Go sit down. So that's my like big thing on that. On the other hand, it's starting to get warmer and business is starting to pick up. And some of my coworkers have been hitting the group chat with memes about how they're overwhelmed and it's so busy. And I'm getting up in my fucking ass about it. And I'm like, that's just the way the summer is. You guys need to get over it.
I really like quietly boomer Nina.
No, this is like I was talking about Indian freelance practices with Becca today.
That was such a transition. Sorry, go on.
No, I was talking with Becca about Indian freelance practices today. And I hear my dad when I talk about this stuff because I am so judgmental about how other small like business people on the internet run their marketing and their business. I have a degree, so I like know certain things and I know that they're doing things wrong and I know that they're building a brand for themselves that they don't want to that they're not going to like later on. Like what they're using that's working right now is going to build a persona for them that I can tell from having talked to them in person, they don't want to have be their brand.
Yeah.
Like
they're self-sabotaging in a way.
Yes, exactly. And part of it is that I feel bad for them, and part of it's that I'm jealous that it's working. I know I'm not going to do it because I don't want to deal with the consequences of using those fast track like methods. I don't want that to be my brand. I'm very protective of my brand, and so I'm okay with the slower growth. But at the same time, I see them succeeding using these methods, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
you know?
I get that. No, I get that. It's one of those things where I've also recently switched jobs, and so different, but same but different. There are so many things that I'm like, oh, they were doing this intentionally. You know what I mean? Like that kind of same like, oh, tiny like relatively small company, completely different mindsets on how things are, and me over here like, oh no, that's just how it is, knowing nothing because I am a child.
Yeah, no.
And then very suddenly realizing, oh no, you were doing this on purpose, and you're a piece of shit for it, actually.
100%. No, 100%. There are certain things that, like, I will not talk about on this podcast because I am currently embroiled in them. But, like, there are things that I see where I was naive to them for a while. And so I thought the best of the person or whatever. And then I found out that they had the knowledge to prevent the thing from happening, and they did it anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, then.
And it makes you a shithead.
Yeah, no, I feel it. So my inner dad really comes out. It's Mother's Day, but I'm thinking about my dad because I'm turning into him. I might be anti-capitalist, but I am also like deeply entrenched in that like method of society and in that economy. And so we do live in a society. Things are constantly happening.
This is a pro Carlos podcast.
It is pro Carlos because I do think that to survive in my industry and do well in it, I do have to kind of operate the way that my dad would want me to operate, which is very cutthroat and dickheadish.
Yeah.
So I don't like that about me. I will talk very judgmentally, specifically to Becca, about like how I see other small businesses operating, and I can feel the inner Carlos, and I'm like, I hate this. I hate it so much, but I don't know any other way to do it because this is how I want to succeed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do it in a nice way. I hate capitalism. It's turning me into a monster.
It's a little bit of that, like, how, like, Michelle and I have had kind of a similar conversation lately because I've been doing a lot more for like my stream stuff, right? And like, where is the line for me as far as there are a lot of good and bad ways to gain following on any social media, whatever. There is always choices that are on that road of, is this something that I am okay with myself for doing?
Yes.
Like, it's that question of like, I a couple of times had to be like, I get that is the correct thing to do. I don't think I could live with myself kind of thing.
100%. It's the opposite side of what I was just saying, where like a really popular way to market independently published books, especially ones with queer characters, is to point blank just list off what identities are in your stories.
Yeah, that's not...
Yeah, and I don't love that. That feels a little weird to me, and also my books are not about that. The identities that are there because I identify with them and because I want to, like, the story is impacted by those identities, not because I wanted to, like, force those in there or market. It's not for marketing.
Yeah, it's not quite literally, token diversity.
Right, yeah. And I don't think it is for those other people. I think it's just really normalized but that's what it feels like. When that's all you know about someone's book is what identities are in it.
Yeah.
But, like... Yeah, I don't think I've come so close to it, and sometimes like I will mention certain identities, but I'm really, really against. I'm saying this publicly, and it's gonna come back to bite me in the ass if I ever give in. But I'm really against that kind of marketing for myself personally.
It's exploitative. Like
a little bit, yeah.
Like it's very like it. I don't know. I want, for what it's worth, I fully respect and like appreciate it because it really does sound like, I don't know, the alternative is so disingenuous, maybe be the right word.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of like different facets to it. There's the like target audience that you're going for, there's the like social circles that you run in and what people are used to seeing. And if you are courting a readership that is specifically looking for those kinds of things, then yeah, totally. But I know personally that's not the readership I am courting. So like, but at the same time, it would be, I feel like, and this is me having hubris, I feel like it would be so easy to court that audience if I just wanted to change my marketing tactic and start listing off, because I do have a lot of representation. So if I wanted to just, like if I wanted to be a sellout basically and just like flip it and be like, here's all of my representation and talk about that constantly instead of talking about like the themes and the stuff that I really want people to be there for. I feel like it would be easier, but that's me discounting probably a lot of hard work that these other writers are having to do. It's not necessarily just a fast track way to get readers. The way that I think it is.
I was gonna say, it doesn't have to be a fast track way to still be something that like rubs you the wrong way though. Like,
true.
It's totally
even
fair.
if it's not getting a lot of readers fast, it's definitely getting a certain kind of reader that I don't think that I necessarily deeply want, even though, you know,
all publicity is good publicity, whatever.
Yeah.
But also sometimes not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they'd be disappointed. I think here's the thing. I think they'd be disappointed by the content of the book. And if I pushed it by the representation, I think they'd be disappointed that isn't the focus. So I try really hard not to use that.
Yeah, I respect that. I respect that a lot. It is definitely not easy to like have a
brand.
Well, not a brand, but like a brand that you almost have to accept that I will probably. I mean, that maybe, and speaking for myself, you almost have to accept I will probably never be as air quotes big as this other person, because I refuse to engage in the business practices that are letting them be that big.
Yeah, sometimes that is definitely true. And
it's like, obviously not necessarily, you know, it's not necessarily, but like broad strokes, you know, etc.
Well, there are some things. I was talking to Becca about this too. We're talking about like self-help gurus. And how a lot of them are just like really big because they're lying.
Correct.
And it's like, I know that would be easier than actually putting the work in to like to actually write something I believe in or draw or do whatever, to just get on a podcast. I am on a podcast now, I'm aware. But
I wasn't going to say it, but I did think it.
But to get on a podcast or just get on Twitter and talk about how to succeed, you just have to believe you can succeed, and then in 10 years you just got to invest, and then you'll have 40,000, 50,000, 40,000.
I need you to know that Nina's doing the big like tech bro hand movements that you would be seeing during a video.
Oh, I love it. I can see them in my eye.
It's like simultaneously tech bro and bad freestyle rapper just trying to wheel those words out.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like there are certain things that like would be easier, like unequivocally, because like we don't do this, but we don't do it because it's easy. We do it because we like doing it. We like the streaming and the writing and the art. I know for a fact, because we did it for fun and for community for so long, that we would still like, it would take a lot to get us to stop, even if we aren't being super successful.
Exactly. It's a little bit of I do it because I love it, not because I necessarily. I do it because I love it. I would be doing it regardless of my success level. It sure would be nice to also be successful.
It sure would be nice. It would be so cool.
It would be very cool to be able to. I was talking about that a lot too because I was unemployed, and I was like, hey, is it worth it for me to just put basically all my eggs into the streaming basket? Because obviously, very clearly. No, that's a dumb idea. That's terrible. Don't do that. But there's a little bit of, well, somebody does it.
Right.
Someone had to make the decision to pull that trigger at some point, saying, no, I'm going to be the one that does it. Just this once, just to see.
Yeah,
and
I am the one.
God, what year is it?
I don't know, fam. I don't even know where that came from. I'll be 100% real with you. That's just like...
I don't even know what that reference is.
Fucking
it was I'm not even gonna explain it. I already had to explain. I had to explain a Hannibal Buress joke to my mother-in-law this morning.
Oh, that was the best Mother's Day treat of all time.
Oh my god. She was checking her spinach like puffs in the oven to see if they were done, and she made a comment about how it's hard to tell when spinach puffs are done baking because it always looks the same. And I turned and I began to say puff pastries is the same, and I was like, no, I have to actually make the meme. And I told
So yeah, in the family group chat there is spinach puffs is the same. Nina posts this saying, Linda, you're not going to get it. And my mom's like, oh, no. And then looks and like, I don't get it. Then Nina got to explain the origin of the joke.
Yeah, I had to explain pretzels is the same, which is not funny when you say it out loud.
There is nothing better or worse. There's nothing worse than having to explain the joke to somebody. There is also nothing better than having to watch someone else explain the joke.
No, it was
I'm
so
sure it was
funny.
so funny to Noah. I debated just not doing it, but it was Mother's Day. I couldn't do that to her.
I was sitting here on the side. I also have not seen the video, but I know the Eric Andre show.
I don't know if I've seen the whole bit. I can connect it. I know what the bit is, but I don't think I've seen the whole thing. Meme culture is so weird.
Meme culture is super weird.
We're all just like part of this like hive mind where we all kind of generally know certain references. Mm-hmm.
There's like 30 pop culture it's the same as when like TV was big though. There's like a million little pop culture references that a lot of people know, but they don't know why they know it, and they don't know the reasons behind why they know it. They just know that they know it.
Watching The Simpsons and Always Sunny for the first time after being on the internet for so long is just a constant cycle of, oh, that's what that's from. Haha. And it's like, it's funnier in context sometimes. But honestly, the funniest bits from The Simpsons that I have seen are ones that I have never seen online. I think the Mom, why are you always trying to give me potatoes? I just think they're neat. I thought that was very funny. But like in the same episode, there's an extended bit of a man crawling around greased up in the school vents. And I was like crying real tears.
That is the other thing. It's a little bit of the wide appeal thing, right? Of like, I get that this is very memeable, but is it actually funny?
Yeah. Some of it is. Some of the stuff is funnier when you can say it in a real life context, but it's from something like The Simpsons or Always Sunny that's such like a big like over caricatured like personalities, and then you find yourself in a real world situation where the context is applicable. You're like, this is actually, I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Okay, first I have two things applicable to this. One, obligatory Jackson Seinfeld reference.
I almost made a Seinfeld reference.
Where George is just like, or God, what's his name? I always call them by their like character names, except for Jerry, because his name is fucking Jerry.
I don't know who you're.
I have good news for you, buddy. I've never watched Always Sunny, so.
No, Seinfeld. I said.
Or sorry, whatever. They're all.
I know. Anyway,
you're
my
so
brother in Christ did the same show in my mind.
They are the same show for different eras.
Fair.
That's like very much a thing.
Sorry, go on. Tell your bit. Do your sick gag.
Jason Alexander.
Oh, I never remembered that man has a different name from George Costanza.
I know. George Costanza is such an everyman name.
Despite being very few degrees removed from this man's son, I do not know anything about him.
Who played Jerry Seinfeld? Oh my God.
Yeah, well, I'm not flexing me. I'm flexing Emma.
I mean, anyway. That's still...
right? No, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, obligatory Jackson reference of this one time that Jason Alexander was like, why the hell am I reacting like this? There's no way that a real person confronted with this situation would act like this. Like, there's absolutely no chance. And then Larry David's like, what do you mean? This happened to me like 3 days ago. This is how I react.
Oh my God.
So that, but also a question for Nina. In watching these clips and everything, does it almost make you mad finding out that certain things are as funny as people claimed they were?
Okay, this is gonna
are not.
This is gonna lead me into a tangent after this. So we're gonna start.
I'm gonna start with my anecdote.
Okay, good, please.
Dan, I watched a movie recently with Tim Dune in it.
Oh, yes.
The one, the only, Timothée Chalamet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really mad because he's a really good actor.
No, Timothée Chalamet is amazing. I saw your tweet about this. Right?
So I'm aware that he's worked a lot of like A24 Oscar bait style movies. To quote Jackson again. But like, I have never seen him act a day in my life. I never watched Dune. I don't have any concept of who he is as an actor beside the fact that I know he has a lot of people who find him very attractive. So I'm like, well,
yes, correct.
First, okay, well, I have things to say,
you're
Dan.
Cutting
I have
Noah
so
off.
many things to say.
Let him finish.
Have you not been on this podcast before, Nina?
Let him finish.
No, that's the problem, Dan. I assumed that most of his career success was because he was attractive. But I was like, well, is he that attractive? I don't know. But then I watched a movie with him recently, Bones and All. Great movie, real fucking weird.
The idea of watching Timothy Chalamet without his bones. Sorry, go on.
Okay, that is very funny. But I watched this movie, and there's like a moment where it clicks, where at the same time I register, shit, man, he is really attractive.
Yeah, dude.
And also, fucking hell, he's also a good actor. I'm so fucking angry. How dare he be both things people claimed he is?
I am unironically very sorry that you had to find out this way. But also, yeah, dude. I've never seen anything that he's in that I've disliked him in.
He's just so good.
He's really good.
He's
I saw
astonishingly good.
I saw him in Don't Look Up, and I didn't like that movie, but I did like his performance. Mm-hmm. And I saw him in Bones and All, and I really liked that movie, and I really liked his performance. So yeah, I feel it. No,
Timothy Chalamet with no bones. Call him Timothy Chalamet not. Sorry.
Oh my god. You're really caught up on this.
That was pretty bad.
I really like how I said the name of a movie, but you think it's a descriptor for how he was acting.
No,
Timothy Chalamet put his bones and all into it.
No, here's the thing. You said it the first time, and I was like, oh, that he's using a turn of phrase. And then I thought about it for literally a second. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the name of the movie. And then I came back to, yeah, but it's much funnier if it's just a turn of phrase.
100%. But to answer Noah's question, there are some moments, specifically in Always Sunny, more in Always Sunny than The Simpsons, because in The Simpsons, I pretty consistently found the funnier parts to be things I've never seen before. Mm-hmm. All of the parts that people reference are very good. They are iconic, but oftentimes I just get taken off guard by things that are super well written in ways that I did not expect. Always Sunny, there are bits that I have seen so many times, specifically so this is a great example. There's an episode where they are rehearsing some music for some reason, and then the whole gang gets the fucking flu, and they quarantine themselves in the bathroom, and Mac comes in to check on Dee and Dennis, and tells Dennis that he has the flu, and Dennis sings a prolonged high note and just holds it. And then stops and goes, does that sound like a man who has the flu or some shit, right? Or a man who needs to go to the hospital. And that has always been very funny to me. It was funnier in the episode. And then I was at work the other day, and we have a tea that's called Harmony. And it's a green tea with ginger and apple. And it's really yummy. And I made myself some, and I'm sipping it. And I look over to my coworker, Andrew, and I'm like, this is great. I feel really harmonized right now. And this man makes eye contact with me and sings a full scale just at me.
Aggressively.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. That's pretty good.
He finishes, and then he looks at, there's a pause, there's a beat as we just look at each other, and he goes, you were supposed to harmonize with me.
Of course, correct.
I'm like, I'm so fucking sorry for not reading your mind, bro.
It's really good. Holy shit.
But yeah, so on the topic of things being as good or better than we wanted them to be, recently, Becca and Kez and I realized that we had not seen some pretty iconic romance movies. Okay. Becca realized this because she saw a clip from The Notebook and realized that she had never seen The Notebook. She thought she had, but what she had actually watched was Dear John, another movie adapted from a Nicholas Sparks novel. So we decided to take a night and make a girls' night of it and watch Dear John and The Notebook to figure out what the difference was and potentially really meld them into one movie in our minds for the rest of our lives. Mm-hmm. We watched Dear John. It was horrible. Don't even talk to me about it. We watched The Notebook, and about because we were so jaded coming off of Dear John. We were like, that was fucking awful. And we start The Notebook, and for about the first 15 minutes of the main male character being kind of the worst, we're like, this is going to be the same thing again. And about halfway through, we realized, oh shit, this movie this slaps. Actually, I am crying. I am in tears. I am deeply heartbroken by what is happening on screen, and we all kind of agree, like it hit us all at the same time that we got it. We got why this one was a classic and why everyone talks about it.
That's so funny.
Dear John, on the other hand, man, we got jump scared by two separate things. I'm sorry. The movie opens with the main guy getting shot and having like a monologue about like coins and shit. And then, so I know this man's been in a war. And I know that the movie establishes pretty early on that this movie is set in 2001. But guess what I did not see coming as a plot point?
Oh no. Oh no, Nina. Please, no.
Oh yeah.
9/11 is a major plot point in this movie.
No!
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming, did you, Dan? Neither did I, getting this text out of nowhere. Just, like, all caps, this movie has 9/11.
I mean...
I really...
On one hand, I guess, how do you not? But also, oh no!
Well,
yeah.
On one hand, how do you not? But on the other, you didn't need to make it in 2001 to have 9/11.
Yeah. Well, okay, so here's a couple things about this movie that pissed me off, okay? This movie begins on spring break in 2001, okay?
Okay.
These characters, John and Savannah, they date for 2 weeks over spring break. Total. He goes away to war and she goes back to school after spring break. They write letters for a little while. And then she breaks up with him because she's got feelings for someone else. And because he extended his stay after 9/11, he extended his stay for like another tour. And she was like, she did her darndest, but they dated for 2 weeks. So eventually, yeah, she broke up with him. Okay?
Feels like a good thing to do, to be clear.
Yeah. And yet somehow I'm supposed to believe that these two are fucking soulmates for the rest of their lives. Like, she marries another guy who makes way more sense and is a way better dude, and is also the father of a child that she basically helped raise. So the kid gets a mother that cares about him and all this stuff. But then her husband gets cancer and John comes back and talks to the cancer husband. And the cancer husband is like, you know, she's always been in love with you and she's still in love with you, right? And I'm like, what is happening? They dated for 2 weeks.
I can't believe that 2 weeks was the most important 2 weeks of their entire lives.
I literally, it blows my mind that they want me to believe that this 2-week college romance was like so important that it overrides years of helping this man raise a child and being married to him. I am blown away. So yeah, Dear John sucked.
That's, God. I feel like I need to watch more romance movies. I feel like...
No, you don't.
Well, no, I don't. But I don't want to say things and be like, oh, actually, that's just my perception of it. But I do feel like that is a not uncommon trope in romance, is this idea of like...
Okay.
Like not just soulmates, but soulmates that like...
Right.
One night or 100%. Week or whatever. And I just...
No. Yeah. This is why I don't like romances and why I also fully expected The Notebook to be shit. That's why I was surprised when it wasn't, you know? Because that's my perception of romances, is that it's also an incredibly common trope.
Yeah.
I don't really like romances for that reason. I was telling Becca and Kez this as we're watching it. I'm like, my favorite romances are the ones that happen in stories that are not focused on romance because they've had time to become friends and get to know each other, and then they enter a relationship. Meanwhile, in Dear John, he jumps off a pier to get her purse, and then she immediately starts like flirting with him and asking him to go out with her. And that's like that. And then in The Notebook, they meet when they're teens, when they're 17, and they meet at a carnival, and this is where I'm like, this guy sucks, and I'm not liking this movie. He climbs up a Ferris wheel and hangs from it, putting himself in bodily danger and telling her that he will not like be safe until she agrees to go out with him.
Don't love that, actually. I know I know it might be a hot, spicy take, but that is gross, actually.
So this is what we discovered, though, because later on in the movie, this same character has an extended period of time where he just accepts that the girl is not into him anymore and that she's going to be with someone else. And he gets kind of in his feels about it and goes a little crazy. But, like, we have dubbed this, like, the Darcy zone, which is the zone men get into when they accept that they've fucked shit up and that they're never getting the girl back. And they just live their life and they don't go after her and they don't make it her problem.
They
and
that once is what you're talking about.
Exactly. Once they hit the Darcy zone, that is now a desirable man, and I want her to end up with him.
You know what? Yeah, 100%. I get that, actually.
So yeah, that was where the Notebook changed for me. But I did not like that about both of them, was that like the relationship starts with the two of them just having a meet cute. I don't like meet cutes. I want y'all to be friends for a bit, and then you can have a cute confession. And is this because this is how like my relationships have historically gone? Perhaps. Is this me being demisexual?
I was just about to say I wasn't gonna call you on it, but yeah, it's definitely that one. Let's be clear.
Yeah, that's the thing. But like that is a big problem that I have with romances, is I personally just don't buy it. And I'm going to make that a problem for everyone else.
No, I agree, though. Like, I also think there's something, like, deeply inherently unhealthy about, like, 80 to 90% of all romance stories.
Oh, no. 100%. Like, yeah, there is.
In that same
100%.
vein of, like, in that same vein of... There's what's that? The TikTok sound. He's not the love of your life. He's literally
just a guy. Hit him with your car.
Like that.
Yeah.
But all romance, not all, most romances
that are romance focused, I think the romances I have enjoyed are rom-coms. I watched Decoy Bride, which is incredible. It's a fucking comedy where a character has to marry David Tennant because she's like being a decoy for a celebrity who's running from the paparazzi. So they end up accidentally married. And in their journey to figure out what the fuck is going on, they actually fall in love and they just stay married.
Hell yeah.
So that one's cute. And then 10 Things I Hate About You, which is a Shakespeare adaptation. So that's like a whole nother fucking thing to unpack.
I've heard 10 Things I Hate About You is actually pretty good. I know that. I
it
recognize
is my
that one by
favorite.
name.
It's my favorite romance because it's set in 99 Seattle.
I see.
And Heath Ledger is in it.
All right.
There's a lot.
There's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot to unpack there. No, it's really fun, and it changes the main problem I have with Taming of the Shrew, which is that it is a taming, and she loses her personality because he treats her like an animal. But in this version, the two of them are both delinquents, like in the Shakespeare story, but they find camaraderie in being delinquents and come to understand each other better. So while their relationship is healthier than the like quote unquote good kids relationships, which is still the point of the Shakespeare story, it's because they have mutual respect. So that's why I like it. They don't change each other, and that's important to me.
Yeah, it's almost like it's gross.
It's almost like basing relationships on shared experience and mutual respect is really important to me.
That's so crazy. Could not be me.
No.
I only want to be with somebody who's completely different from me in every way.
Yeah, 100%.
Clearly.
Totally. Which is, Noah and I watched Lost.
That's so sad, frankly.
No, it's not. It's a good show.
It's a good show.
Okay, sure.
Noah and I watched...
Fuck off. Did you ever... Okay, did you finish the show?
Yes, I did.
Did you finish the show when you were a child or an adult?
A teenager. So take your pick.
Okay. So I'm gonna put that in the child camp because that's when I finished the show as well. I thought it was so much better returning in a binge viewing format.
I mean, that's super fair. But I'm also gonna say I'm so sorry when you said that you watched together.
No, it was okay. Dan, I got to be honest with you. I thought this is me. So I am aware that as a creative, I am someone who enjoys kind of ambiguous bullshit. I really like ambiguous bullshit. I love being able to interpret my own shit. And I love wacky shenanigans. I loved Lost. I loved every second of it. There was never a moment where I felt like I didn't have any idea what was going on.
Hell yeah.
So, but that was like one of my main problems with like the main romance I was supposed to believe was just,
yeah,
buddy, for real?
My sibling in Christ.
Yeah. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good one to watch though, so don't slander it. I'll get mad.
You
can slander Sons of Anarchy all you want.
I'm gonna slander it, but understand that it's slander as a bit, not slander as an actual take.
Okay.
Acceptable.
I can, you know what? I'll play in that space with you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming to meet me where I am.
Speaking of Sons of Anarchy, though, Dan, do you know Shakespeare?
Oh, good. This is we're getting back into it.
Do you know Are you familiar with Shakespeare, the works of William Shakespeare?
Yeah. I have. I got true story. I almost got kicked out of an acting class once because I said that Shakespeare wasn't intended to be high art.
Ah, that's a good take. I enjoy that.
It's not. Why are you booing me? I'm right. Like,
you've read, like, this is not me being like pretentious or not expecting you to. You've read Shakespeare, like Shakespeare,
I've
right?
read and seen both. I have seen Shakespeare at the Globe Theatre in London.
Okay. So
jackass.
You've read Hamlet.
Of course.
Okay, Noah has not read any Shakespeare at all.
That's extremely fair and valid. It should not be read.
No, 100%. However, Noah has made me watch Hamlet
specifically
twice.
Hamlet.
Twice, not knowing that it was Hamlet. He made me watch Sons of Anarchy, which is a direct adaptation of Hamlet.
And, like, not even, like, there's no wiggle room there. The creator was like, I fucking love William Shakespeare, and I also love motorcycles. So you know what, I decided to put my two favorite things together. It's motorcycle Hamlet.
It is motorcycle Hamlet.
Unironically based as hell, just to be clear.
Dude, the characters' names, the aunt and uncle character, they're, Claudius and Gertrude? I don't remember her name. It starts with G. Their names are Clay and Gemma. There's no wiggle
interpretation here. This is what it is, and we're all here for the ride.
Yeah, so I knew what was going to happen before it happened because at some point I picked up that it was Hamlet.
Yeah, there's like a major death at the like end of the show, and I was flipping through things and I saw the death happen as in a spoiler on like a wiki, and I'm like, oh no, and Nina's like, what? And I'm like, oh, there's a death coming up, and I accidentally spoiled it for myself. Nina calls it immediately because,
because it's Ophelia.
Familiar with Hamlet.
Of course.
It was Ophelia, so I had expected her to die a little sooner, honestly.
Honestly, I'm surprised it took this long.
They do some of the deaths out of order, but otherwise. And then Noah and I went and saw The Northman.
I have not seen The Northman, actually.
It's proto-Hamlet.
Spoiler alert, but it is Hamlet again.
Damn, that's so crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's apparently the story that Hamlet was based on.
Oh.
Yeah. So the original like Icelandic folk story.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's two Shakespeares I've shown to Nina.
Hamlets. Noah has
specifically Hamlet. It's the funniest thing. Also, the funniest thing that I keep calling it Macbeth.
Yeah, he keeps saying
I won't lie to you. There's a part of my brain that does the same thing.
Oh, no, 100%.
And honestly, Motorcycle Macbeth is a far better rolls off the tongue than Motorcycle Hamlet.
I would watch that as well as The Thing. I think that if he had done another Shakespeare adaptation when he did the Mayans, if he did Macbeth when he did the Mayans, I'd like if he did the gimmick again.
There's another series by the same guy.
Yeah. I would be more into it if it were very clearly another Shakespeare adaptation instead of just a spinoff. But but yeah, I enjoyed both things. I just was like, at some point, I was like, oh my God, this is just Hamlet again. And Noah has never seen Hamlet.
I feel like at this point, you just gotta get Noah to go watch Hamlet. Like,
I will, because it's Brittany's favorite play as well.
You know, that's fair. You have seen Hamlet now, honestly.
Yeah, you don't really need to see Hamlet once you've seen two Hamlets.
How many Hamlets? All Hamlets is the same.
What's your great callback, Dan? Great callback.
Thank you.
Dan, what is your favorite Shakespeare then?
That is such a hard question to answer.
I know.
Here's the thing. I do enjoy Shakespeare. The problem I have is that I have the shittiest memory on the planet, so separating them all in my mind is extraordinarily difficult.
No, yeah. I have like signifiers for each one. Like, Twelfth Night is the trans one. Much Ado About Nothing is the snarky couple one. Midsummer Night's Dream is the donkey one. Macbeth is the trees. That's what I remember. It's what I remember about each.
No, here's the thing though. I think you're right.
Noah. So Noah found out about one of the plot twists from the end of the Macbeth recently, and I thought it was really funny.
Macbeth or Hamlet?
No, Macbeth.
Okay.
Because no, I watched a TikTok that was about Macbeth, and it was like the thing about the witches telling Macbeth that no man of woman born would be able to kill him, and how Macbeth thought that meant he was fucking invincible. And Noah's like, oh, what was the plot twist, that it was a woman? And I'm like, no, you're not ready for this.
I'm like, no. Unfortunately, Noah's also seen Lord of the Rings. So.
Right.
Well, that's literally, I thought it was just like, I thought old Jert was like, oh yeah.
No, Jert saw
That's a good
Macbeth
bit.
and thought, actually, that's stupid, and it would be better if it were just a woman, because women are capable, and I think it would be a really interesting story. Like, legitimately, this is Jert. He did think, like, oh, that's stupid that you would jump through this many hoops when a story about underestimating women is, like, right there.
Yeah.
And so he just did that. But no, Willie Shakes was like, no, it was a fucking C-section.
Don't worry, it counts. So
Counts.
stupid. So fucking God damn it. That's the other problem. Is that, like, listen. Okay, so I actually do think Macbeth is both the one I know the best and probably my favorite. Just
It's good.
It's good. It's fun. It's a good time.
I love Lady Macbeth as a character. She is one of my favorite, like, women characters in, like, classic media.
Extraordinarily valid, actually. It's just
We need more women's wrongs. I support them.
I just have such a hard time looking at Shakespeare. So to wit almost getting kicked out of an acting class.
Yes.
I told my professor this, and he went off on the fucking, oh, what is it from? Oh, god damn it, hold on. The fucking
Yeah.
I think it is from Macbeth. Hold on. Yeah, it is. It is. The Life's But a Walking Shadow.
Oh, yeah.
And then also the Bo Burnham does a bit about it. What is the fucking quote that he does? It doesn't fucking matter. He went off on two, like, objectively phenomenal monologues from Shakespeare.
Right.
And I'm like, that's great. Hear me out, though. He also has 99% of his humor is to the lowest common denominator. And that's
there's
great.
a lot of bathroom humor.
There's so much bathroom humor.
And it's so funny when you look for it.
Like, because Villain I Have Done Thy Mother is in a fucking, what is supposed to be,
it's so good.
Shakespeare is designed to be watched, and it's great to watch. It is
and the other
high
thing
art,
is,
and it should not be treated as such.
When you know what to look for,
exactly,
it's delightful. I think the big thing is now a lot of us don't know how to listen to or watch it, which is fine. But like, because of the language.
I think that your professor maybe misunderstood you when you said it's not high art. You weren't saying it's bad. You were just saying it's not high art. And he's like, what do you mean it's bad?
No, I will say I did also then say, I mean, it's fine. Like, let's be clear.
Yeah, you did do that. I'm sure.
But here's the thing. Right. Here's the thing. I don't totally back down from that one either.
No, that's fair.
I look at William Shakespeare in much the same way that I do a lot of, like, I'm going to use Citizen Kane, but obviously I've talked about Citizen Kane. I hate Citizen Kane, but I don't hate William Shakespeare. But I view it in that same light of, it is so important. It is so unbelievably important, and his work is so important to exist. Not all of it is good, though.
No, 100%.
Things can be bad and still important.
Here's the thing. I love Shakespeare the same way that I love, like, this is a terrible comparison, because I do think Shakespeare is better than this. But the same way that I love, like, Percy Jackson.
No, I think it's a perfect comparison. I
think there's a lot of important stuff. It's very valuable to me. I would recommend it wholeheartedly to anyone who is in the demographic it is meant for. You know, same thing with Sanderson's work. I love Brandon Sanderson's writing. I know it's not for everyone, but I think it's really valuable. And I think it has facets that I find really funny and also stuff that I find really emotionally valuable. And I think that's just good storytelling. I feel the same way about a lot of TV shows. And Shakespeare is just a good selection of stories that I have like a lot of fond feelings for. It doesn't mean that it's a masterpiece. But here's the thing, though, actually. I don't think a lot of I can't think of many things that I would unequivocally call like masterpieces.
Same.
I think everything has there's a lot of things that have values, but to put any one human's work as like above reproach is kind of what leads to some really wacky ideas.
Yeah. It's almost like you should re-examine things and say, actually, what if this thing is bad?
Mm-hmm.
That's
or what if this thing is simply not good?
Yeah, that's true. You know what? That's fair. Bad and not good, not the same thing.
Yeah, one of my favorite follows on Twitter recently was talking about preserving movies and stuff like that, specifically like Hong Kong action movies.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you know, there's been a lot of great work in saving these amazing movies from the golden age of like Hong Kong action.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, but I just watched one. And it was bad, man. It was real bad, like real forgettable up until the end. But this one, because he's like, we need to also preserve middling movies.
I talked
because that way you don't deify, like, how many shitty Shakespeare plays have we lost to boil down to like the...
Oh, there's plenty that none of us talk about because they just aren't that good.
Yeah. Like, people are already, like, just deciding, oh, these ones don't really count, though. They're not real Shakespeare. But, like, there's so much stuff that once you take away all the fluff and the bad things, you no longer have a concept of what actually it was like. You end up getting this wrong idea that someone was this untouchable monolith of creativity, when it's like, well, yeah, I'm not going to say that the guy couldn't write a play. I'm not going to say that Hong Kong didn't put out great action movies.
Yeah.
But there's some schlock in there. And that's okay.
I have the opposite problem with movies from the 2000s. Because I've seen so many that are all so fucking bad that every once in a while, like, Noah and I have watched, like, a bunch of the Underworld movies, a bunch of the Resident Evil movies, the Hitman movies recently. I obviously love the old X-Men movies. We watched some 2000s horror movies for Casual Obsession, like, all sorts of this stuff. And my perception of, like, 2000 to 2015 movies is abysmal. And every once in a while we'll put on a movie from that era and it will be like well shot. Storytelling is amazing. Pacing is beautiful. And I'm like, oh shit. People actually did tell good stories when this filmmaking like style was a thing. Same thing with like sometimes 80s movies. We'll watch a movie and I'll forget it's from the 80s because the pacing is so much better than all of the fucking other 80s movies I've been watching.
Yeah, and I would like to say, in fairness, I do not pick outstandingly great movies from the 2000s. We are looking at a very specific subgenre of 2000s movies that are generally hit or miss.
No, 100%. No, that is my point, is like, we are not watching good 2000s movies. So I forget that good 2000s movies exist.
There's a real problem with that in film school, where the only movies that we preserved that were like these air quotes classics, these like the old black and whites, that kind of thing, the only ones we preserved were the good ones. There are thousands and thousands of movies that they showed one time in a theater because that was how they did movies back then. They showed one time and they never saw them again. Like, like that. It doesn't mean that all movies from those times were good, or even necessarily most of, or even necessarily more than a few of them, because the ones we kept were the ones that mattered.
Dan, did Noah and I tell you that we watched Nosferatu?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. No, actually, I haven't seen Nosferatu. I can't say that.
So, okay, no, this is actually great. So we watched Nosferatu, and this is something that my favorite book in the whole wide world is Sweeney Todd and the String of Pearls, the original, like, Penny Dreadful. And I love it because it's really, really funny, and it knows it's funny, and its descriptions are really well done. And there's like a lot of just like really dry humor that is very self-aware about the fact that this man is like serving human meat. And it's really funny. And Nosferatu is exactly the same way. There are so many scenes that are just openly like hysterical, and they have to be on purpose. Like there's like a scene where Nosferatu is looking at a picture of the main character's wife, and he says something along the lines of, "She has a lovely neck." Oh my god.
It's so cursed.
It's real bad.
It's so funny. There are so many lines like that.
Like, there's so many movies from that era that don't exist anymore, and there's no clean recordings of them because no one restored them in time, and they're all, like, degraded as hell.
I want more. I want to know what their sense of humor was like, because that shit is fucking funny. And we have songs from that era that kind of have a taste of that sense of humor and how similar it is to, like especially, like, 2020's humor.
Yeah.
Just absurdism and crass humor. And it's like, man, I want more of that.
There's a very specific... friend of the podcast, Cap, and I talked about this at one point. There's a specific absurdist art creator. Absurdist... it's like the beginning of modern absurdism. And it was in like... It was like far enough back that it's... Oh, wait, nothing ever actually changes kind of thing. And I gotta fuck. I curse this broken memory of mine.
Was it the one I can never pronounce? Because I know people cite like Dadaism or whatever as being a style of absurdism and humor that was popular in the early 20th century.
I think it was. That sounds right, but I think it's like a specific Dadaist person. But yes, that kind of like. That things are it's like poetry, it rhymes.
Exactly. We're
Thank
back.
you, George.
We're doing it again. Was that George or was that
George Lucas?
Okay, I thought
I'm so sorry, it was George.
I never know what
you.
No. It's because sometimes, and you can get mad at me about this.
No,
sometimes the bullshit that George has said and the bullshit that JJ has said kind of meld into my brain, and I cannot separate them.
Listen, as much as I deeply hate two of the last 3 Star Wars movies, it makes fucking sense why they gave it to JJ. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
His whole mystery box shit and it's like poetry, it rhymes. It's like the same thing in my head. It's like, what are you talking about?
They basically are. And it's just because yeah, George, you're right. It is like poetry, it rhymes. That's how it's supposed to be, buddy.
That's
nobody,
right.
Nobody was
It's
confused.
not that deep.
George Lucas dropping the most basic theory on anyone in the world. He's like, it's so cool. We're making a story and the story ties together.
It's the same thing with the mystery box shit. The mystery box shit of people will be interested in things that you give them to be interested in. Mm-hmm. Yes, JJ.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's it.
You did that to me with Lost for several episodes, and I was intrigued. Thank you.
I'm so proud of you, JJ.
Thanks, JJ. You figured out. No, and it's both of those philosophies as tying them to your key driving force for storytelling. I think that's the problem, because I think they're both correct. Those are very interesting aspects of storytelling, is finding those moments where everything comes together and it feels poetic and it feels like you find things that you didn't realize you had set up that now you are paying off, and it feels so monumentally important. Totally. But you can't try and do that all the time. And same thing with the mystery box thing. Absolutely, you want people to be curious about the world that you're building and the questions that could be answered, but you do also need to answer them sometimes.
It's exactly. Sorry, I just about fucking destroyed my voice there. It's such a. I think the thing that gets me, and the thing that will always get me, is that it is because I don't even understand. I actually really I don't hate saying I think for me, the duality of my characters and the way that everything matches up in its own way is important. I think that can be a driving force. The problem is it isn't what he said.
No,
you know what I mean? If that's what he said, that's. Yeah, what,
George?
Lucas, you got it. That's awesome. Nice work. But no, he just said it's like poetry. It rhymes.
God, George.
Lucas, what the fuck are you doing?
There's a TikTok going around right now of a documentary where George Lucas just walks through the background and they play final boss fight music or the... I was just that's so That's not an edit. That's just what really happens, when he enters your field of vision. I have no hate. I have very little hate towards George Lucas. There are very few creators who I just think that they need a little more constraints, because I think some people genuinely work better within constraints. And that goes for even my most hated creator, Stephen Moffat. I think he wrote some really incredible episodes when he only wrote an episode.
When he's running the show, yeah.
Every single time they give him the reins over something, he does just the worst. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that like constraints can be really helpful, which some people who are not artists don't understand. I had beef with a customer for a little while because he shit talked my art because it didn't have color. I told you this, Dan?
Weird reason to no. What?
Dan, let me tell you this story.
Please.
So I had my art hanging in the coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
It was 3 charcoal pieces that I had worked really hard on. And I made a funny haha joke about it as well, because one was a self-portrait, one was a picture of a Wolverine wearing a dress, and one was a picture of my main character, Quincy. And I made a joke about...
You made 3 self-portraits.
Right. So I made a joke about the ego, the id, and the super ego, and I thought it was really funny.
I agree.
So I hung those, and then we had another artist the next month who had done some oil paintings of interiors that displayed some really impressive control of perspective and color theory. Mm-hmm. And I was really, really impressed by them, and I loved them. So I'm working, and this guy comes in who is kind of a regular. I don't really talk to him very much. He strikes up conversation with me. He's like, I really like this art. I'm like, me too, right? Like, it's gorgeous. It's incredible. And he's like, yeah, I like it way better than the artist who was here last month. And I'm like, oh no. So I keep myself very calm, and I'm like, oh, we had a lot of artists hanging out because it was a barista showcase. But I didn't say barista showcase. I said, we had a lot of art from different artists up last month. Which art are you talking about? And he gestured to where my stuff had been hanging.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh, well, like, what didn't you like about it? And he's like, I just found it, the words he used were reptilian and like adolescent, I think.
Ouch.
I'm like,
those are harsh fucking words. I'm not gonna lie to you.
No, they were. So I'm like trying to discuss with him like what he thinks about this. And then like we talk about it, I'm like, that's okay, that's interesting that you feel that way, you know? And I'm like, I get it. And he's like, I'm not trying to be rude, this is just my opinion, still not knowing I'm the artist. And I'm like, no, yeah, I totally understand. Like, we're all entitled to our opinion. And he goes, I'm getting like adrenaline just thinking about this. He goes, do you know who the artist was last month? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, do you have a way that like we could contact them or whatever? Like, do you keep track of that? And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, because that one was me. I debated over saying it. I was almost just like, oh, you'd have to reach out to so-and-so from like the arts and culture. Like,
I'm very proud of you for just saying it, for what it's worth. Well, I don't think I could have.
I didn't know what else to do. And then he's like, let me just ask you a question. And I'm like, sure. And he's like, why didn't you use color? And I was like, well, because when you work within limitations, you can push yourself a lot. And part of the reason I've been experimenting with charcoal is because I feel like when I use color, I rely on color for contrast too much. So I was using charcoal to try and like learn how to push my values more, which is all stuff he didn't understand.
Of course.
Because he, as he's leaving, goes, would you ever consider working with color? And I say, I do frequently. And he says, well, you should. And then he left.
Oh my God.
And then he proceeded to be really awkward around me for months.
Good.
He asked other people to make his drinks. He was like, can you make sure that you're the one to make my drink, when I was the one working? I never treated him differently.
Thought you were going to spit in his drink. 110% he thought you were going to spit in his drink.
I never treated him differently. He is so paranoid, but I did not change anything because like he is entirely entitled to his opinion. Yes, we all shit talked him in the group chat. Yes, he was wrong. But like, genuinely, I'm not that hurt by it. I just think he's wrong and doesn't know very much about art. But he's finally getting normal. He hasn't like been weird to me in a while. So, but it took, that was in December. It literally took until May for him to be fucking normal.
Amazing.
It's hilarious to me.
Amazing.